faith, belief in action. Wish TV is sharing the stories of people who are guided by their faith from all religions, denominations, and walks of life, and in all the ways faith manifests itself. From the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is Finding Faith.
All right, imagine living an entire year without this thing right here. It's connected to all of us at all times, right? We use our cell phones in every way you can possibly imagine. But one Indiana man is saying no more, giving it up for an entire year. And we welcome him now to the show. Mr. Tommy Short, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Cody. Thanks for having me.
Okay, but let's just jump right into this. What in the world were you thinking when you said, you know what, I'm going to give up the one thing that I probably use more than any other thing in my life for 365 days?
Yeah, so it started about a year ago this time. I had this idea that popped in my head as I couldn't sleep one night. Hey, what would you do if you went a year without your cell phone? And thought that was a pretty silly idea, especially as an entrepreneur and someone that goes around the country speaking. Like, how am I going to get in touch with my clients? How am I going to talk to potential companies that want to bring me in? And it really stemmed from, as I started to unpack this, Cody, spending nearly 2 decades as a college basketball official. And like you said at the beginning, being always attached to that, whether it was getting our game assignments, looking at flights, rental cars, hotels, just always on it. And probably a little bit of a scarcity mindset of not wanting to be too far away from it in the events that I get another assignment or I need to check something. So it was really living out of this scarcity mindset and thinking and being attached to it for almost 20 years of, hey, what would life be like if I went a year without this?
What's maybe that one thing that you have noticed has been the biggest positive outcome from putting that phone away for the last 300 plus days?
Well, 2 things. I will say first, I alluded earlier that this idea kind of popped in my head. I realized pretty early on, probably within the first 2 or 3 weeks, that this really wasn't my idea. It was a way that God was talking to me saying, hey, what could happen in your life if you put that away and just reprioritize what you claim are your priorities? Because for so long when I was officiating, I would have told you that my priorities were my faith was 1, my family was 2, and officiating and my job were sharing number 3. The reality was officiating was 1, 2, and 3. If I had time for my family, my faith, and my job, then we'll get there. So I think number 1, just being able to create space. I think God is always talking to us, but do we have enough space and stillness to hear that? And then number 2, kind of the overarching takeaway is things that don't matter, right? I think we care about, and it's great to care about your job, and it's great to care about all these other things. But when you realize there's a lot of just extra stuff that we sometimes create in our life, that really at the end of the day, that's probably not going to matter.
Talking about your book, you mentioned it's not a how-to guide. It's not even necessarily a self-help book. What is your hopes and your takeaway you hope that people get from this book?
Yeah, I think there's the analogy that I always use, Cody, is I think as humans, especially as Americans, we don't have a knowing problem, we have a doing problem. And the analogy that I use is, if I were to walk in any company or just a coffee shop and I was pulling up, a carton of blueberries and a box of donuts and said, hey, which one of these is a healthier choice? I'm sure we would get, 100% response that the blueberries are the better choice. Yet 75% of our population is either overweight or obese. So we know what to do, but it's the actual doing. So for me, it's just creating awareness and perspective of what are we missing out on by looking down, right? What is just passing us by? I just want to share really the highs and lows. There's been a lot of both. Had a mild heart attack and went to the hospital, was invited to speak at our church, spoke at a prison a couple months ago. So there's been so many just phenomenal experiences, both good and bad, but learning to take all of those in stride. And I think kind of the overarching goal, and one of the goals as I continue writing, is I want people to see that I embarked on this crazy journey and it wasn't the perfect time, but maybe it inspires them to do something that they've never done, right? Maybe it inspires them to, hey, here's this guy from Carmel, Indiana, that went on this wild thing that put his phone away. I don't necessarily agree with them, but let me see if there's any takeaways in there. So really, it's almost like a look inside my journal, if you will, and it's not going to be formatted like that, but it's really just, hey, here's some questions that I've pondered over this past year. Here are some things that I've thought about, maybe questions that all of us think about, but we're too busy for that, right? Like we've got kids and spouse and work, and like we don't have time for all of that. So if we don't have time for it now, when are we ever going to have time for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tommy, it's a wild story. We certainly appreciate you sharing it with us. I will be curious to find out how many text messages you have missed over the last 365 days. And I've got to check my text messages. So thank you so much. Best of luck in finishing out this journey. And we look forward to chatting with you again at the end to see what the next steps look like for you, my friend.
Thank you, Cody. Have a great day.
Take care.
From Wish TV, this is Finding Faith. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast, and be sure to check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Online now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.